back at the bench. No honing at the moment. They'll be honing later. This is just the bench shots. Let me get the penguins out of the way. Put them over here for safekeeping. So why are we here? Well, you remember I did a video on the Titan TH70, 70 Rockwell hardness, stainless, special Japanese steel, forged in Taiwan, blah, 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 blah. So I went over that razor, and, I shared some thoughts. I got another Titan, this one. This is the ACRM-2 steel version. Now, this is their top of the line, I mean, price-wise, right? 74, 75 bucks delivered. This was like $22 delivered, This one came in a wooden case. This one, the new one, comes in this functional but kind of weird sort of vinyl case, and is embossed. Got a zipper. Reminds me of something that you could find in a mall in the 80s. Has a little pouch thing in here, so you could just stuff that in there like that. A little retainer strap to keep it in place. So this is functional. And it's ugly, but I like this better than the wooden box that came with this razor. I don't like either of them per se, but if I had to choose, I'd roll with this. Let me put that over there for a moment. I also got another one of these strops. I didn't open it. The other one was open. It's got cheesy leather product weirdness and fabric. It could be used. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But it came with that, and this came with one also. And it also came with paste that I threw away because it's pointless. It's been alleged by people to be cerium oxide. I don't know if that's true or not. It's not really a good sharpening compound for hardened steel. So before I get into this, I just wanted to step back for a second on this TH70. And as you see, I took it apart. Now, one of my problems with this razor was that I couldn't get tension at the pivot. And I took the pivot out, the pin, and the scales are weird, man. They have they shaved in here to accommodate the tang. It just tells me that they weren't really thinking when they designed these scales. It was like an afterthought. Anyway, neither here nor there. My problem was the pivot, right? Well, the scales are clunky as hell, and they're ugly and not designed very well. So that's an issue. But the actual function is there. They function as scales, but I couldn't get tension at the pivot. Turns out that on this TH70 razor, on both sides, okay, you can't see it, but I'm going to tell you what's here. The area around the pivot hole is a depression. Okay, so this is almost kind of like countersunk, but it's not countersunk like you did it with a tool where it's even and perfect, like if you had a countersink bit for a screw, right? No, it's uneven. So what they did was, and it's not the same on both sides either, so it's totally whacked. They used 2 pivot washers on each side. The first one kind of sits sort of in the divot, but it doesn't really do a good job of getting to the scale, so they put another one on the outside. The one that's in here was bent. It was like a jellyfish. It was all wobbly. So that's why I couldn't get good tension. Tapping it down, it's moving. When you open the scales, it's moving around. It's nah, not going to work. So that really kind of annoys me that on their top of the line razor, they had this really shoddy workmanship here. It just is what it is. There was some aggravation in the comments on the last video. The one and only Titan razor aficionado on the planet decided to show up and start pimping stuff. Everybody's welcome to say whatever they want to say, but the reality is if you bought 100 of these and you liked every single one of them, it doesn't take away from the fact that this was a little bit more than a piece of crap that was way overpriced. Telling me this should have been cost $50 is laughable because this isn't worth $10 to me. Not with all the stuff. The box is worth more than this razor, right? It wasn't 70 Rockwell. It wasn't hard to hone. It doesn't hold an edge well. It was a pain in the ass. The geometry was whacked. It was just like the initial bevel was a horror. It was put on with a belt sander with a 150 grit, probably Alox belt. No, sorry, not for 75 bucks. No, no, just no. Okay, so that's that. But I wanted to try the entry level. This is the entry level, okay? Because the picture of this actually looked better to me than this thing. This is stupid looking to me with this bolster. It looks like, do you remember QVC? It was like a home shopping network. I used to watch it at like 2 o'clock in the morning to put myself to sleep because it was boring as hell. But there are always these guys selling knives with frost wood handles, which is nothing more than like laminated crap wood covered in like epoxy. And all of that stuff had these garish bolsters, and that's what this reminds me of. Anyway, I saw this, and it looked better to me. So, there's a weird little, engraving in the wood, but the scales look normal, right? Now, they're still thick, and this is not a wedge, it's a spacer, but the shape in here is better than these, okay? This geometry of the scales is much, much better. The pivot is the same, got this big blind nail head on one side and whatever on the other. And down here, sort of the same type of thing. So if you have to open this up for whatever reason, you're probably going to have to go get some like knife pins from a knife supply place because this is not going to be like your typical 1/16 hole that you would use for like regular razor stuff. So modifications here, if you want to maintain the scales, it's going to require some extra supplies. Whatever. For the time being, it's fine. I don't think there are pivot washers, which I don't mind, all right? Especially like, since the pivot washers on this were like a joke, right? You have bottom jimps. The jimps are well done. Past that, there's some crappy grinding back here. I don't mind. It's like $22 delivered. It came with some stuff. I'm not going to be like, oh, the grinding wasn't perfect. No jimps on top. I can live with that. What does bug me, can you see it? The toe is ground up. So you don't have a smile per se. It's technically, I guess you could call it a smile, but it's sort of like a smirk. Okay, the blade has a smirk, not a smile. So this, like, what the hell? This is a brand new blade. There's no excuse for that. Okay, I don't care, $5, $20, $200. Blades should not come like this. This should have gotten thrown into a pile. This should not be sent out as a new item. That's my feeling. All right. Compared to, I'm not going to take the tape off of this edge. I didn't want to cut myself. I was going to throw it away, and this is what I do with sharp things before I throw them away sometimes. Anyway, the edge on this that came was like horrific. It was done in a belt sander, 150 grit belt, like I said. The existing bevel, factory bevel on this, way better. The heel, which was a bone of contention for me with the other one, was like really jacked up, and I had to like grind in. I don't have to grind in on this. I didn't. I haven't actually put this on a stone yet. We're going to do that together later. But looping it and checking it out under magnification, grind back here is pretty okay. Especially $22 price point. Better than a gold dollar. It's totally tolerable, okay? It's not like a gold dollar where they have to grind away the stabilizer. There's no stabilizer. There's no shoulder. So it's all groovy, all right? What else? Okay, so I did some readings. I don't have my micrometer out at the bench, but toe to heel across the spine, there was a little variation in dimension, but it really was tolerable. Okay. Obviously, the dimension at the toe is not the same as it is back here, and that's something I expect on a 100-year-old worn-out Sheffield, not a brand new blade. So that's aggravating. So the bevel angle, doing an average across the board, right? It's going to be stouter here and more acute here. Averaged 17.1, totally manageable, way better than a gold dollar. Any gold dollar I've ever had, it just, no, they're just like 21 degrees all the time. So with this versus a gold dollar, I wouldn't have to grind the spine. I wouldn't have to grind the heel. You know, the toe is a little whacked, still totally usable, still totally honable, still going to make a shave. All right, so there's that. Someone in the comments last time was saying that these were made by Gold Dollar, and he may be right. I don't know where they're made. Nobody I know knows where they're made. Their advertising says they're made in Taiwan, and we know Gold Dollars are made in China. And let's not get into semantics here. Two different factories, right? So the profile on this, I happen to have a new one. So, I mean, I know there's different Gold Dollars and everything, right? But they're not the same profile, okay? And if you look at the grinding on the Jimps, the grinding is different. I kind of feel that there's a possibility this is made by Gold Dollar, but I don't believe the same people that made this made that. And we all know in China, you have one factory, you have different production lines, anything can happen. I don't know. I'm still not feeling this is a Gold Dollar. So, it is what it is. This was a better deal, the Gold Dollar, than the $70 Titan. That's for sure. Okay, because $5, $75. This is the Titan is jacked, and this I know I got work to do, but it's like $5. I mean, come on, you know, $70. That's like lunch for a week. So I got this $22. Delivered, came with stuff. Geometry is basically okay. Scales are serviceable, not beautiful, but not horrific. Totally manageable. The balance is a lot better. You know, there's another thing. The guy's like, oh, they balance in the same place. Balance has a lot to do with weight distribution, and the metal on this throws things off. The chunkiness, the weird cutting. This is more normal, in my opinion. So this actually handles better. All right. So surprise, surprise, I shaved with this already when it came. Okay, I literally just dropped it and went into shave, and it was like not good. All right, I came out, I did some paste on it, and I was able to get it with the grain, and I got an against the grain pass that was rough. But there was an edge. It was kind of usable. It wasn't shave ready. You know, it needs to be honed, but you know, it was like almost in close to ready condition. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. So there's that. This one would not pass muster in that regard. And to be honest, most Gold Dollars neither. So in that sense, I think we're ahead of the game here. All right. So let's go take a look at this on a 1K and see what happens. All right, here we are back at the sink. I promised you we'd get to putting that Titan on a 1K. And that's what we're going to do. See how that steel works out. This, by the way, is this Titan, right? This guy. This is alleged to be carbon steel. So I got the Naniwa professional stone. Here we go. Again, remember I told you, the toe is a little whacked. You can see it's dimensionally challenged up there. So right out of the gate, I have some odd feedback going on back here. Probably the result of the way they grounded. It probably left some rough area back there. Plus, you know, the heel, it comes in a little bit, just a little bit. So I have to be cognizant of that. if the grind is handled correctly, then that wouldn't be a bother. Because when you think about it, you have no shoulder and you have no stabilizer, it would be good to be able to bring your edge pretty far back. So you can see here we have some swarf, nothing unusual, no ultra hardness. I mean, the Rockwell on this was said to be 60, so we don't have the BS merchandising that we did with the other one, where they said it was 70 Rockwell and stainless. Now, I just want to mention for a minute, I don't know the Rockwell or any of my razors. I don't care. I hone, I see how it goes. Arguing about shit like that, it's like forum nonsense where people are like, trying to outdo each other with knowing more than the other guy. I don't get involved in that crap. But since they came out and said it was 70, I thought that was interesting. And, if it was true, that would be an interesting thing. Maybe not great. Maybe 70 Rockwell wouldn't turn out to be a good thing for smoothness or something. You never know. And so I have to do a kind of a roll to get the toe. It's honing. It's just steel on a rock. All we're doing is taking hair off our faces. Anybody pimping their shit, their style, their methodology as being like something better than everybody else's, that's just internet nonsense. Someone's ego at work. Set the bevel, refine the bevel, strop, shave, done, repeat. That's the deal. All this other crap with methods and people going on and on and on about how sharp their edges are, and it's comical. Steel seems pretty okay. In the grand scheme of things. Now, these are not forged by a blacksmith in the 1800s. These are stamped blanks that are ground, heat treated, quasi-finished. And people will tell you like, oh, it doesn't matter, and blah, 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 blah. But a lot goes on when steel undergoes hammer and heat treatment. And if you study what goes on, perlite bands, grain structures, whatever, those things might become important to you. I'll be honest. It's important to me. I notice like certain generations of steel from certain areas, Sheffield's 1850s, for example, they sort of behave a certain way, and almost nothing else behaves the same way. Now, it's subtle at one level and not so subtle at others. Whether or not that's important to somebody, that's up to them. But with the internet, and you get something cheap, you got all the people waving the cheap flag as though like nothing else matters. And if it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. But cheap doesn't mean shit to me. Oh, it's $5. I'm getting the same shave as I get from a $100 razor. Well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But I have those razors, and they don't shave me the same way. Not for the same amount of time. They require too much work. They're ugly. The aesthetic's not there. it was just about getting a shave, I'd use a Mach 3. It's a lot to it. Anyway, this is honing pretty well. I think, honestly, I think the steel here is responding better to me than most of the gold dollars I've honed. I prefer this to the 70 Rockwell stainless steel Titan joke thing that I did the video on also. The feeling in my hands, I can hear it too, that I can't really impart in words. It's very hard for me to explain things sometimes, but you know, I've said it a million times, honing is right here. I can't teach you this, I don't think everybody gets it. Doesn't matter. If you get a shaving edge, you got a shaving edge. But for me, right here, right now, I'm telling you, the steel feels, pretty okay. It doesn't feel like a vintage Sheffield. It doesn't even feel like a vintage Solingen. I have I have a Solingen on my bench in the back. It cost me $20. It cost me 30 minutes to hone it, and I would rather shave with that than this, based on how this feels right here. But I'm going to shave with this again and a few times because I want to give it a fair shake. Now let's see how it goes. Take a look. Not too bad. Let me take a look on the loop. And geometry up on the spine is a little whack. Spine wear line sort of drops down towards the edge up by the toe. It tells me that the grinding was off, seriously off. Brought the bevel back so it's a little wider back near the heel, but I did that intentionally. I only did it on one side, so that tells me that the heel grind is off also. Not terrible, it's just there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to hone this, and then we'll get back to my bench and I'll do like a synopsis or something. All right, take care. All right, here we are. Now we're back at the bench again. We have this lovely Titan ACRM-2 razor. Shaved with it, honed it. So remember, I was honing on the 1K not so long ago. Something weird started to go on. So what I found was this section right here, all right, the middle third on the facing side, when I looked at it with a loupe, I saw something, a weird reflection. So under higher magnification, what I found was this section of the blade, the edge was collapsing. It was deteriorating. It was falling apart. What I think caused that was the factory bevel, if you want to call it that. I think they probably set these up on like a belt sander, and they just do it quickly. That's how they wipe the toe out on this thing. The other one was definitely on a belt sander. You could just tell. So I think those heavy striations from the belt sander, I think they polished it out on this a little bit so it looked a little like better, than the TH70 did when I got it. But those heavy grooves, okay, they cause problems. So what happened was I went back on the 1K. I spent another bunch of time. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't fun, but it wasn't terrible. All in all, it required less work than the high-end TH70, okay? But that was a little bit of a distraction. Finished edge, spine wear, okay, is totally tolerable. It's not even across the spine from heel to toe, but it's not, whatever, giant. It's manageable. The grind is off at the heel, the grind is off at the toe. You can tell by the way the lines fall, and it's a $22 razor, all right? So there's that. It centers like without a problem. Tension is like kind of okay. The wood is, not the worst I've ever felt. Um, this happened. I don't know if you can see it, but the wedge is it's moving. It's moving in here. See, came up. Right. So I have to tap this back down again. Not the end of the world. So how was the shave? The shave was okay. I've had a couple of shaves on this. The shave was okay. The shaves have been all right. Nothing to write home about. It's not going to take what I call a high-end edge. The steel doesn't like it. But you can get a serviceable edge out of this. Edge retention, not great. I saw more wear than I should have after the first shave. So I think this is a better purchase than this thing was. Okay, this is a laughable joke to me at this point. Okay, so there's that. The big question against the gold dollar, right? Where are we at with a gold dollar? $5, $22. Plastic sleeve, zippered pouch. Comes with strap, no strap. Comes with paste, although it's useless. It came with paste, no paste. Geometry out of the gate, 17-degree bevel angle. This was like 22. This required a crap ton of work. I had to grind down the spine. I didn't have to grind down the spine. I also had to grind back the heel on this. I did not have to grind back the heel on this. Ironically, you'll notice that they both have fading toes. It's kind of like a toss-up. All right. Now, people want to say, oh, these are great for beginners. I don't think they're great for beginners. Okay, I think they're great. Well, I don't think they're great, but I think they're plausible for people who want to work on a razor. Okay, and they want to get like their chops down. So you buy something like this, or you buy something like this, and you can go to town. You can like mess with the scales. You can like learn how to pin and unpin. You'll do better here. These pins are like whatever from a freaking buck knife. All right, so there's that. But you get to hone the hell out of both of them or whatever. Which one's a better deal? $5, you get 4 of these for the price of this. If you're learning how to work on a razor, probably better off with this, to be honest. The geometry here is better, so if all you want is something that's going to shave and you're not going to work on razors, you send it to somebody who'll tune it up for you. You know, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Geometry is better here, so that's a bonus. But honestly, you know what your best deal is? This is your best deal. Vintage Soul Engine, decent condition, shows wear, but it's serviceable. Picked it up on eBay for, $20, right? Pulled it apart, unpinned the pivot, cleaned it out, honed it up. Great blade. This makes sense to me. This is where I send, beginners and newcomers. This stuff, I leave this stuff for people who like to wrestle with the stuff they bought and people who like to argue about things on the internet. I picked this up to see, give it a fair shake. I read about it. These are not new, by the way. These were around like in 2010, 2012. They were around. This is not new. And, if you think about it, they've been around like that long and you haven't seen like a whole lot of people just like, driving themselves to the ends of the earth to get these and to hone in these and to have these. And if you haven't seen that and they've been around this long, ask yourself why. Leave the craptastic junk alone. Go vintage. That's what I think. Anyway, this is all about having fun. That's all this is. Shaving, having fun. Get your stones out, make some good edges, get some good shaves, and until next time, take care. Talk to you soon.